Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam satu Malaysia. Para hadirin sekalian, pertandingan bahas Piala Perdana Menteri merupakan satu pertandingan yang berprestij bagi warga sekolah berasrama penuh. Dengan ini saya serahkan majlis kepada speaker Dewan. Dipersilakan.
Thank you to the Master of Ceremony, Encik Fauzi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most beneficent, a very pleasant and beautiful morning, I would like to wish to everyone here and welcome to the finals of the 2011 English language debate for the Prime Minister's Challenge Trophy. The motion for today is this House believes that WikiLeaks is good for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, before the arguments begin, it gives me great pleasure to introduce members of both benches. The dashing young ladies on my right, representing the government, is College Tunku Kursia Seremban. Taking on the role of the Prime Minister is Ilmira Murni Muhammad Harif. The Second Minister, Nur Natasha Abdul Rahman.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all.
The Third Minister for the government is Dahlia Munchar Elias.
Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone.
Last but not least, the reserve speaker for the government is Alia Hasina binti Rashid Khan. Now on to the row of formidable gentlemen on my left. Representing the opposition bench is Sekolah Dato' Abdul Razak Seremban. The first speaker of the opposition is Abdul Razak bin Hazrin Fazail.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone.
The second speaker is Abdullah Ikram bin Zulkafli.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all.
The third speaker for the opposition is Muhammad Azizul Haziq bin Jalil.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone.
Last but not least, the reserve speaker for the opposition is Amirun Hamman bin Azram. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on to the panel of honorable adjudicators for today's debate. They are Puan Shannon Leigh Austin, Setiausaha Kedua from New Zealand High Commission, Kuala Lumpur. Next, Professor Madya Dr. Jayakaran Mukundan from Fakulti Pengajian Pendidikan, Universiti Putra Malaysia, Serdang. Our third esteemed panelist is Dr. Shirina Basri binti Abdul Rahman as the Chief Adjudicator. Dr. Shirina is the pensyarah kanan and also the Ketua Program TESOL at University Teknologi Mara, Shah Alam. Also here with us today is Puan Louis McSorley, Education Counsellor from the Australian High Commission, Kuala Lumpur. And last but not least, Dr. Umi Kalthum binti Abdul Manaf, Ketua Penolong Pengarah Bahagian Pendidikan Menengah, Mara, Kuala Lumpur. I, Husni bin Ahmad Dahlan, will be the speaker for this debate. Keeping the time will be my two ever alert assistants, Nordiana binti Azmi and Nur Alia Hazwa binti Muhammad Azhar. Both are from College Islam Sultan Alam Shah Kelang. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed, it is my duty to read out the rules for today's debate. First, the assessment scheme. For the primary speeches, marks will be awarded to each debater under the following categories: substance 30 marks, strategy 30 marks, style 20 marks, language 20 marks, and a total of 100 marks. Next, the reply speeches. Marks will be awarded to each debater under the following categories: substance 15 marks, strategy 15 marks, style 10 marks, language 10 marks, the total of 50 marks. Now the allocation of time. During the primary speeches, each speaker will be given 8 minutes. Points of information, or POIs, are only allowed after the first minute, where the bell will be rung once. The bell will be rung once again at the end of the 7th minute. By the end of the 8th minute, the bell will be rung twice. 3 minutes will be allocated for both teams to prepare their reply speeches. To sum up their cases, 4 minutes will be given to each team. The opposition will deliver first, followed by the government, and no points of information are allowed during this time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I call this House to order. To present their case on today's motion, I call upon the Prime Minister, Elmira Murni Muhammad Harif. The floor is yours.
Of the light of the night, government turns on the light. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid to Madam Chair Speaker, honorable judges, accurate timekeeper, loyal teammates, worthy opponents, and members of the hall. Today we're debating on this motion that this House believes that WikiLeaks is good for the world, and us on the government side wholeheartedly agree to this motion with our stand as it's a catalyst to better governance system. Now, Mr. Speaker, we believe that this is quite a controversial issue. So just to ensure that we're all debating on the same grounds, it is my duty and responsibility as the Prime Minister to set the case for today and also to define the motion firstly. We define WikiLeaks as a website. Not only a website, though. It's a medium of disseminating information. However, what type of information is being published on WikiLeaks? We believe that the type of information that is published on this website is often information that shows gross injustice. It's often information that portrays something wrong morally. For example, right, 779 secret files about the Guantanamo Bay case. Guantanamo Bay, saying how in that prison, the prisoners there are tortured. How in that prison, the prisoners there are tortured without any reason. Sit down, all of you.
Thank you.
Another example is also how they published about the drop weapon method in the Afghanistan war logs. How in Afghanistan during the war, how they tried to justify the killings of civilians. What did they do? They put weapons near the civilians just to make it look as if they were terrorists. These are the kind of things that are being published onto WikiLeaks. We believe that WikiLeaks only publishes things that shows things that are morally, that are injustice, and these are the kind of information on WikiLeaks itself. Secondly, we would like to say that WikiLeaks publishes documents without the conclusion, saying that they don't say, they give out a document and they don't say this document is bad. It's up there on the net, and it's up to the society to interpret however they want to interpret it. Hold on a minute. Also, we believe, how do the WikiLeaks get the information that they publish on the website? They get it from anonymous sources, meaning that people will submit documents to this website, and then in the website itself, they'll do check and balance system, they'll do an investigating method, and after all that, after it's verified that these are the truth and these actually happen, then it will go published. Also, we define good of the world as benefits that WikiLeaks bring to the world. But before that, they seem very eager. Let's just take the second speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the thing is that you agreed that it's from anonymous people. So how could you say that it's a real real fact that we're given.
We believe that yes, even though it is from anonymous people, even inside WikiLeaks, there is a check and balance system. There's investigative methods that WikiLeaks does to try verify the truth. For example, sit down. In the collateral murder video in Iraq, when somebody posted a video about the collateral murder, instead of just publishing it, what did they do? They sent spies into Iraq to ask the witnesses, to ask eyewitnesses, to ask the actual victims, to get proof such as hospital records, to get proof such as death records. They don't just publish any information. They don't, it doesn't mean that I have some kind of document, I send it to them, they're going to publish it. They investigate first to ensure that these things actually did happen. Okay, so basically, let's just move on. By the end of today's debate, the government side, sit down, will prove to you that how WikiLeaks is good for the world and is a catalyst to better governance system. What do we mean? We mean that through WikiLeaks being there, it is actually a step towards better government system. What is a better governance system in the government's eyes? We believe that a better governance system is when the society actually knows about what the government is doing. When the society has a part in the government, the society has a say in what the government is doing. Sit down, all of you. So we believe that we are going to prove to you our stand still stands by the end of the debate today with our 3 points. Firstly, and the key phrase of role of WikiLeaks given out by yours truly. Our second point and the key phrase of check and balance in decision making. And third point and the key phrase of avenue for concentrated efforts for investigation given out by the lovely second speaker over there. And our third speaker will stand out and rebut all the misguided issues given out by the government side. Sit down. So basically, roles of speakers done. I've set up the case nicely. So let's move on to our very first substantive about the role of WikiLeaks. Now we believe what does society have the right? We believe that society has the right to know. The society has the right to know what's happening. They have the right to information. Why? Let's see. The government is there basically because of the society. If there is no society, there is no government. Therefore implying that the government serves the people. The government is there to serve the people. Also, why does the society have the right, therefore, to be involved in the government? Well, let's look simply. Look at the funds that the government has, right? For example, the US Army. How do they get the money to actually go to Iraq and actually do the military operations that they do? Through the taxes of the people. The money that they're using is the money of the people, the civilians in the nation. Therefore, the government has the people have the right to know where does the money go to, how does the government spend it. This is how we believe that society has the right to know exactly. Also, we believe that society has the right to know these issues. Sit down, hold on. Because the information that the government is withholding is often information that directly affects the society. For example, how Vietnam condemns the US, but society has no idea how. If not for WikiLeaks, we would have never known that the reason why Vietnam doesn't like US so much is simply because how US bombed Cambodia, how US raped the civilians in Vietnam. Without WikiLeaks, these kind of information we'll never know. These kind of information will never be exposed to society. Before that, yes, Raza.
Vietnam hates the United States, and it's okay now actually, because the United States invaded them during the war. Not because of whatever you told us.
You see, yes, we believe the US did invade Vietnam in the war, but you see that even in the war, you can't harm civilians, you can't harm people like that. There are laws that have the war. Okay, now we're going to talk about how WikiLeaks brings forth the information, how WikiLeaks let people know. We believe that WikiLeaks actually exposes the truth about things. The WikiLeaks actually exposes things that's being withheld from the government. The things that the people should know, such as these minor details about how many people got killed, how you killed the people, about war crimes. These are the things that the government is withholding, and the WikiLeaks let people know about. Is it a reliable source? Yes, because we believe that in WikiLeaks itself, it has a check and balance system, ensuring that these things actually did happen. And also the difference between WikiLeaks and publicly released documents is that publicly released documents, they are often redact, which means the government edits the document so that it's not fully doesn't have the full information. Therefore, we have proved to you in my speech that with WikiLeaks, it lets people know more about the government. It lets people take part more in the government. That's my first point. And also, we've set up the case nicely. And with that, I'd like to read from my stand. This House believes that WikiLeaks is good for the world as it's a catalyst to better governance system. With that, I thank you. Be enlightened.
Thank you, Indira. Now let us invite the opposition leader, Abdul Razak Hazrin Fazail, to state the opposition's objections with regard to today's motion. Please welcome him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very, very disappointed with government side because this is the finals and we've given like a lot of time to discuss on this issue, and yet what came out from the first speaker's speech contradicts whatever they told us, because essentially they tell us that we want to have a clear government with good governance, but yet they support the very entity, the very websites which expose political scandals, which led to a political instability in Kenya this year, Mr. Speaker. We think that this is problematic and this is not the truth. This is not the thing that society deserves to know. From our side, what we are going to prove to you is very simple. We are going to prove to you how the harms that exist because of WikiLeaks overrides any form of benefits that would maybe exist if they try to tell us, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning I wish to everyone. Now, our side opposition here believes that secrets, classified information, which first speaker over there conceded to are secret, should always be kept secret and should never be actually given to society. Because inherently, the reason why governments make this information secret is because they know there's a bigger harm towards what will happen if the society would know. And this is what I'm going to tell you further on in my speech. But before I move on, let me move to my rebuttals on my speech. Before that, yes.
If these are really scandals, are not even truth in the first place, then why are investigations being done to find out the real truth? There must be truth to these informations.
Now, this is not about investigations being done. The very fact that investigations are done, this is why it's true that the informations aren't really reliable. Because you are making investigations, which means that you're unsure that that information is actually true. We think that you're contradicted yourself. But let's move on to your arguments, okay? What did the first speaker talk about? The first thing that she talked about was this idea of there's like secret files on torture in Guantanamo Bay and also killing of civilians in Afghanistan. Now first, we question the reliability of these facts, because you are getting facts from anonymous people who you don't know. How can you be sure that these facts are true? But even if it's true, ladies and gentlemen, we think the very nature of WikiLeaks is that they exaggerate whatever that happens and any shred of truth they can get. The collateral murder was put in a very, very big headline saying that, oh, this is bad and this is not justified. We know that, but the way they do it is that they sensationalize everything. From our side, we think that the reason why there are killings of civilians, ladies and gentlemen, is because that when they were trying to fight the terrorists, they accidentally hurt civilians. This is something you can't avoid at times of war, because what you must concede to during war is that civilians are always at risk. That's why war is the last option when it comes to battle against governments. But on the second argument that they talked about, they told us this is about the government system and how we need the people to be good and the society has the right to know. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the media. Why must the people know more than they deserve? Because inherently, the reason why censorship and there are limitations to what the people know exists is because we don't want the people to just make their own decisions on things they don't know. Things like war, things like torture, they don't know the very reason to why we do all this. For example, in Guantanamo Bay, we torture terrorists, not innocent civilians, people who have hurt a lot of individuals. We are not just torturing anyone. And this torture is for the use of information to save the very people you are trying to hurt, the very people you are trying to defend. We think that this is problematic. We think that the media should always be censored and should always be limited to the people, because we want the people to know that we are in the correct way. Before I move on to my arguments, yes.
Seriously, you think that students, you think that society, civilians should not know what happened? You think that society cannot think for themselves whether or not these facts are true?
This is not about them knowing or not. But the reason now is that current media, alternatives like the BBC and the CNN already exist to give sufficient information. Why can't you rely on these sources? Because the WikiLeaks give the real documents without any censorship. They give names, they give places, and it's very detailed, talking about the tactics of the military and many other stuff. We think that this is only going to harm the people. But let's move on to my first argument, under the keyword of national security. Because what's happening right now, ladies and gentlemen, is that several countries are at war. The United States and the countries from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, 28 countries like Canada and Liberia. This is a war against terrorism in Afghanistan, against dictatorship in Libya, which is happening right now. The very moment WikiLeaks existed, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, it threatens the national security, Mr. Speaker, because what happens is that classified and secret information are released. What are the informations that are released? Are tactics of the military. Recent release in 2010 leaked 32 pages of the United States Department of Defense and counterintelligence analysis. We think that this consists military tactics that the people and the military uses against the Taliban in Afghanistan. It also had a copy of the standard operation procedures of the military. And when they exposed these military tactics, ladies and gentlemen, what happened is that the enemy of the United States, of the countries, knew what happened, knew what they are using, and they have a leverage over them. We think this is unfair, because at times of war, we need ourselves to be at the very best to battle the people. But if this is happening, the enemy knows our tactics, because it's exposed to the whole world, how can you actually fight this war? But other than that, this also creates paranoia in the army and in soldiers. Because when they are at war, these soldiers would be thinking every action they do, the people would know. This would just make them too careful in doing their job. Instead of shooting the bullet when they need to, they hesitate. And what happens in war, when you hesitate for even 1 second, what happens is that you could lead to your death, which is what's happening in Afghanistan, where there were recent 23 armies, soldiers, died against the Taliban at the battle in Kabul. We think this is very, very atrocious and problematic. But thirdly, what happens here is that it also tarnishes the image of the military in countries. Because what happens is that when people get to know what the military is doing, even when they're trying to doing is to protect the civilians, what the people would say is that, oh, the military is bad, the military is evil. So instead of the people coming back to have to be a hero, the people perceives them as evil people who have done something wrong. But actually, in essence, they are doing the right thing to protect society. This is wrong, because what happens is that it reduces the recruitment for the people. There will be lesser combatants to battle for the countries against terrorism. There will be lesser recruitment, which is what's happening right now. There's lesser recruitment in the soldiers in the United States by 23%. But why is this important? Because at times of war, we need the most people to battle terrorism, to battle people that our enemies. But lastly, this is it. Imagine if you are a soldier. You are fighting for your country. You are fighting for your people, but because of WikiLeaks, because of the very entity that they are defending, when you come back, you're not treated as a hero. You're not treated as someone who defended the nation, but instead as an evil person who did something wrong just because someone accidentally killed or accidentally hurt someone. We think that this is unfair, because these are the military who has a job to defend the individuals, but when they come back, they're not treated as heroes, they're treated as evil people. We are very, very, very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Now, without further delay, let us invite the second minister from the government, Nur Natasha binti Abdul Rahman. Welcome her.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to marry a local. But if these are the choices that I have, I would not hesitate to pick a random guy from Mumbai and marry him instantly. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid the Madam Chair Speaker, Honourable Adjudicators, great timekeeper, worthy opponents, teammates, members of this PICC plenary hall. Now with the motion, this House believes that WikiLeaks is good for the world. We as the government side wholeheartedly propose the motion as we believe and understand as it acts as a catalyst for a better governance system. Now, acting as the second speaker of the government side, I hereby do two tasks for the House of today. Now, first is therefore to rebut what the lovely first opposition speaker have told us for the debate of today, and therefore proceeding with our case and telling you how we stand throughout the debate. Now, first of all, let us just see how the opposition have brought up their first substantive. Now, their first major flaw was they assumed that the whole society was being irrational. They assumed that people like you over there and me up here do not have the brain to actually think that these acts conducted by the government are things that we cannot analyze with the condition of our mind itself. We need to have a political science degree, according to them, to actually know what's best for the country. But then again, we say that what is best for the country is therefore known by the society, because what the government has to do is basically to fulfill what the society wants. It does not matter whether they are professionals, whether they are people in the rural areas, but if they are people of the country, they cannot condemn anyone being irrational. But even if they are irrational, what denies them of freedom of information? If people are actually being irrational, does it mean that they cannot know anything? Then why are there such movies like The Social Network being portrayed in the cinemas, being published to everyone? This is where we say that people still have the freedom to know. Before that, they're very eager as usual, any one of you.
Ma'am, the fact that people misunderstood the email of Sarah Palin to Obama is already a proof that people will actually misunderstood and lead towards riots in America in the first place.
But then again, they're always going round and round over the irrationality issue. But then again, they've never tell us or clarify to us on how this is actually existent in the whole wide world. How is this existent in each member of the society till you have to shut down all governmental information? Therefore, we say, based on this simple yet analyzed statement, their whole case totally falls to the ground, Mr. Speaker. Sit down. And their first point on national security, basically, Mr. Speaker, national security is not going to be threatened here. Now, first of all, we say that their point on how it tarnishes the military point of it, well, as for the status quo, before we had WikiLeaks, people already had bad impression on military, because these military people are condemned to be killing people all over the world, although they know it's the civilians or even though it's the terrorists, but people still think they're bad because they kill people. But what WikiLeaks does is they confirm these so-called rumors. They do not actually be biased to anyone. Their neutral point of view confirms that whether it's true or it's not. That's it, full stop. Therefore, we say that how national security will not be a particular threat here, and therefore it does not link to the spirit of the motion for today. This is how the whole argument falls. Sit down. Now moving on to the government's case of today on the second substance, check and balance in the decision making in the government itself. Now, Mr. Speaker, let's just see how a government works. We have executive bodies with people of arbitrary power that decides on decisions that will affect the society. Well, people up there in the government offices do not do things and no one gets affected. People like you, and me here gets affected easily. Because why? Because we are the people of the nation and the government is the decision makers. But what WikiLeaks does by exposing the truth of this information is doing a check and balance system towards all the decisions made. Because before we had this form of exposure, what is occurring is that people that has these powers, they do these decisions with a very low risk because the society does not know about it. But when society knows about it, they have to calculate the risk, the potential risk that they possess when they do